How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, April 4th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and with this episode of The Elite, I plan on reviewing the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Saturday, April 3rd, and of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Starting, of course, with the NBA, because the NBA is in the second half of their regular season. I'm going to jump to Philadelphia, where the second seed Philadelphia 76ers in the East hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves, the current holders of the NBA's worst record. In this matchup, the Sixers would beat the Timberwolves 122-113. The big difference coming in the second and third quarters, where they would outscore Minnesota by a combined 17 points in those middle quarters. For the Minnesota Timberwolves in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting center out of Kentucky, Karl-Anthony Towns, who finished with 39 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists, as well as 6 fouls. He did foul out in this 44 minutes as he shot 11 for 23 from the field, 4 for 12 for 3, and 13 for 14 from the field, as he led the game in scoring as he was slotted against Joel Embiid the entire game. Also for the Timberwolves, their number one overall pick from the 2020 NBA draft out of Georgia, Anthony Edwards, would finish with 27 points in 41 minutes as he shot 10 for 23 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. For the Philadelphia 76ers in this matchup, their leading scorer will be their starting power forward, Tobias Harris, who finished with 32 points and 5 rebounds in 33 minutes as he shot 13 for 17 from the field, 2 for 3 from the three-point line, and 4 for 4 from the foul line. Also within the starting lineup, their elite starting center, slated against Karl-Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid, would finish with 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists, as well as 3 blocks in 29 minutes. He shot 6 for 14 from the field and 12 for 17 from the foul line. Also in the starting lineup, their elite starting point guard Ben Simmons would finish with 14 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals in 33 minutes as Ben Simmons shot 5 for 9 from the field and 4 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 34-15, as with this win, they are now tied with the Brooklyn Nets for the best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have won their last 2 games and 7 of their last 10. With this win, they and the Nets sit 2 games over the third place Milwaukee Bucks to give a sense of where they sit. With this loss, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 12-38. That is the worst record in the NBA, and that is the worst record in the Western Conference. They have now lost 7 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 13.5 games behind the 8th place San Antonio Spurs outside of the playoff race, and they sit 26.5 games behind the first place Utah Jazz in the Western Conference in total. Jumping out to Washington, D.C., the Washington Wizards hosted the Dallas Mavericks, and in this matchup, the Dallas Mavericks would beat the Wizards 109-87 after they outscored the Wizards by 17 points in the second half. For the Wizards in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, Russell Westbrook, out of UCLA, who finished with 26 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists in 37 minutes. Westbrook shot 11 for 24 from the field and 4 for 6 from the foul line. And for the Dallas Mavericks in this matchup, their leading scorer would tie Russell Westbrook for the game high in points, as their elite starting point guard, Luka Doncic, would finish with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 12 for 24 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3, and 1 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Dallas Mavericks are now 27-21. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 4 games and 7 of their last 10. In the playoff picture, they now sit 2.5 games behind the 6th place or the 6th seed or the 6th place Portland Trailblazers, and they currently sit 2.5 games ahead of the 8th place San Antonio Spurs, as the Mavericks now trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 10.5 games in the Western Conference. With this loss, the Washington Wizards are now 17-31. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost their last 3 games. They've now lost 7 of their last 10. They now trail the 8th place Boston Celtics by 6.5 games outside of the playoff picture, and they currently sit 16.5 games behind the 1st place Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets out east. Jumping out to Detroit, the Detroit Pistons hosted the New York Knicks, and the New York Knicks were able to jump back up to 500 after beating the Pistons 125-81. The big difference will come in the first and the fourth quarters. They outscored the Pistons 41-15 by a total of 26 points in the first quarter, and they also outscored them by 17 in the fourth. And the middle quarters were pretty even between the two, but the Knicks would show their dominance in the first and third quarters to get their 25th win of the season. For the Detroit Pistons, their leading scorer was their starting small forward, Jeremy Grant, who finished with 16 points and 2 blocks in 32 minutes as he shot 5 for 13 from the field and 4 for 5 from the foul line. For the New York Knicks in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their all-star power forward, Julius Randle, who finished with 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists in 30 minutes as he shot 9 for 16 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the foul line. And their starting small forward, Reggie Bullock, would finish with 22 points and 5 rebounds in 28 minutes as he shot 8 for 12 from the field and 6 for 10 from 3. With this win, the New York Knicks are now 25-25. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won 5 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit half a game behind the 6th place Atlanta Hawks, and they sit half a game ahead of the 8th place Boston Celtics, right within the playoff picture, as they trail the first place 76ers and Brooklyn Nets by 9.5 games in the conference. With this loss, the Detroit Pistons are now 14-35. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost 6 of their last 10 games. They currently trail the 8th place Boston Celtics by 10 games outside of the playoff picture, and they trail the first place Sixers and Nets by 20 games in the conference. That's where the Pistons sit as of right now. Jumping out to Miami, the defending Eastern Conference champions hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers and were able to pull up a 115-101 win after they outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers by 13 points in the first half. For the Cavaliers in this matchup, their leading scorer will be their starting point guard, Colin Sexton, out of Alabama, who finished with 26 points and 3 steals, as well as 5 turnovers in 35 minutes. Sexton shot 11 for 17 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. For the Miami Heat in this matchup, their leading scorer will be their elite starting center out of Kentucky, Bam Adebayo, who finished with 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in 31 minutes as he shot 9 for 12 from the field. And their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, would finish with 15 points, 6 rebounds, 11 assists, and 2 steals in 32 minutes. He shot 4 for 8 from the field and a perfect 7 for 7 for the line. With this win, the Miami Heat are now 26-24. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won their last 4 games. They've won 4 of their last 10. In the playoff picture, they are now sitting even with the 4th place Charlotte Hornets, as they have won and lost one more game than the Charlotte Hornets at the moment. Both these teams sit 6.5 games behind the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks, and both these teams sit half a game ahead of the 6th place Atlanta Hawks. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 17-32. They are now tied with the Orlando Magic for the 2nd worst record in the Eastern Conference. The Cavaliers individually have lost their last 5 games. That is the 2nd worst streak in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost 7 of their last 10 games. They sit 7 games behind the 8th place Boston Celtics outside of the playoff picture, as they trail the 1st place Philadelphia 76ers and Brooklyn Nets by 17 total games in the Eastern Conference. Jumping out to San Antonio, the San Antonio Spurs hosted the Indiana Pacers, and in a game that went to overtime, the Indiana Pacers would end up outscoring the Spurs 13-7 to pick up their 22nd win of the season. For the San Antonio Spurs in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward out of USC, DeMar DeRozan, who finished with 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 turnovers in 37 minutes as he shot 6 for 12 from the field and 13 for 15 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Keldon Johnson, finished with 20 points and 10 rebounds in 31 minutes as he shot 7 for 10 from the field, a perfect 2 for 2 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the foul line. And their starting point guard, DeJounte Murray, out of Washington, would finish with 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals in 35 minutes as Murray shot 9 for 17 from the field and 2 for 2 from the foul line. For the Indiana Pacers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard, Karis LeVert, out of Michigan, who finished with 26 points and 9 assists, as well as 3 steals and 5 turnovers for the night in 38 minutes. He shot 10 for 19 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Indiana Pacers are now 22-26. That is the 9th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won 5 of their last 10. They currently trail the 8th place Boston Celtics by a game and a half outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, as they trail the Sixers and the Nets by 11 and a half games in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the San Antonio Spurs are now 24-23. That is the 8th best record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 2 games in 7 of their last 10. In the playoff picture, they currently trail the 7th place Dallas Mavericks by 2.5 games, and they currently sit half a game ahead of the 9th place Memphis Grizzlies, who are on the outside looking in, as they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 13 games in the Western Conference. Speaking of the Utah Jazz hosted the Orlando Magic and were able to pull off a 137-91 win. They outscored the Orlando Magic by 38 points in the first half. They outscored them by 18 in the first quarter, 20 in the second quarter, and then another 11 in the fourth quarter. And with this win, of course, winning by 46 points, they picked up their 38th win of the season. For the Orlando Magic, their leading scorer would be their starting center out of Duke, Wendell Carter Jr., who finished with 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 34 minutes, as he shot 6 for 12 from the field and 7 for 8 from the foul line. For the Utah Jazz in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, who finished with 22 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals in 21 minutes, as he shot 8 for 11 from the field and 6 for 7 from the three-point line. Their elite starting center, Rudy Gobert, would finish with 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 blocks in 20 minutes, as he shot 4 for 6 from the field and 3 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Utah Jazz are now 38-11. They have the best record in the NBA and, of course, the best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 9 games. That is the best current streak in the NBA. They've won 9 of their last 10. And in the Western Conference, they currently sit 3.5 games ahead of the second place Phoenix Suns, just to show how far ahead they sit ahead of them. And they sit 26.5 games ahead of the last place Minnesota Timberwolves, just to show the gap between the Jazz at the very top and the very bottom of the conference. Looking out to how the Orlando Magic are faring, with this loss, they are now 17-32. That is, they are tied with the Cleveland Cavaliers for the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost 6 of their last 10 games. They currently trail the 8th place Boston Celtics by 7 games outside of the playoff picture, as they trail the Sixers and Nets by 17 games in the conference. Jumping out to Portland, the Portland Trailblazers hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder, and after they outscored the Thunder by 26 points in the third quarter and by 16 in the first, they were able to pull up a 133-85 win, winning by 48 points to pick up their 30th win of the season, as they became, I believe, the 6th team in the Western Conference to pick up 30 wins. They are now the 9th team in the NBA to do so. For the Oklahoma City Thunder in this matchup, their leading scorer will come off the bench, as their small forward, Kenrick Williams, would finish with 18 points on the night in 25 minutes, as he shot 7 for 13 from the field, a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. And then for the Portland Trailblazers, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum, who finished with 20 points in 4 rebounds and 4 assists in 26 minutes, as he shot 8 for 14 from the field and 4 for 8 from 3. And then their elite starting point guard, Damian Lillard, would finish with 16 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals in 25 minutes, as he shot 6 for 15 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and he made his only free throw of the night. With this win, the Portland Trailblazers are now 30-19. That is the 6th best record in the Western Conference, as they have won 7 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit half a game behind the 5th place Denver Nuggets, as they both won 30 games, but the Trailblazers have just lost 1 more game. And they also sit 2.5 games ahead of the 7th place Dallas Mavericks, as they trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 8 points in the conference. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 20-29, as they have now lost 7 of their last 10 games. They now hold the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference. They sit 5 games behind the 8th place San Antonio Spurs outside of the playoff picture, as they trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 18 games in the conference. Jumping out to Sacramento for the last game of the night, the Sacramento Kings hosted the Milwaukee Bucks, while Giannis Antetokounmpo took a rest after his 47-point outing a couple nights ago. But in this matchup, the Milwaukee Bucks would beat the Sacramento Kings 129 to 128. The Kings would come into the fourth quarter trailing by 8, and they would bring it to within 1, but they wouldn't come back by it. They would not score enough in the fourth quarter to overcome the deficit. For the Sacramento Kings in this matchup, their leading scorers, their leading scorer off the bench would be their forward Terrence Davis, who finished with 27 points in 23 minutes, as he also added 2 blocks in 23 minutes, as he shot 10 for 14 from the field and 7 for 10 from the three-point line. Tied with him for the team high in scoring, their starting point guard De'Aaron Fox finished with 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists in 38 minutes, as he shot 10 for 24 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. For the Milwaukee Bucks in this matchup, their leading scorer will be their starting point guard, Jrue Holiday, who finished with 33 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists on the night, as he added 3 steals. In 37 minutes, he shot 14 for 23 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their starting center out of Stanford, Brook Lopez, would finish with 26 points in 2 blocks in 31 minutes, as he shot 11 for 13 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 32-17. That is the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won their last 3 games and 7 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they trailed the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets by 2 games, that's how far they sit from the top of the table. And they sit 6.5 games ahead of the 4th place Charlotte Hornets, just to give a sense of where the Bucks stand. And with this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 22-28. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They have now lost their last 3 games, even though they've won 6 of their last 10. They currently sit 3.5 games behind the 8th place San Antonio Spurs outside of the playoff picture, as they trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 16.5 games in the conference. That's currently what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's games. Looking forward to what's going on today, going into Sunday. Starting off with the prime times at 3:30, it will be a Staples Center matchup. It'll be a Los Angeles face-off between the Clippers and the Lakers. The Clippers will be the home team on ABC. The Clippers are currently the 3 seed in the West, as the Lakers are currently holding on to the 4 seed, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis are not close to coming back. And then following that, at 7:30, the Atlanta Hawks, the current holders of the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference, are going to host the Golden State Warriors, the holders of the 10th best record in the Western Conference, on NBA TV. Stephen Curry versus Trae Young, 2 of the NBA's best 3-point shooting point guards. And then following that at 10 o'clock, the Denver Nuggets, the current holders of the Western Conference's 5th best record, they're going to host the Orlando Magic on NBA TV, as Nikola Jokic looks to put on yet another MVP performance. Outside of the primetime games at 2 o'clock, the Chicago Bulls are going to host the Brooklyn Nets, the team that are one of the teams that's sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference. At 6 o'clock, the Boston Celtics are going to host the Charlotte Hornets, as both these teams are fighting for positioning within the Eastern Conference playoff picture. The Celtics hold the 8th spot, and the Hornets hold the 4th spot. At 7 o'clock, the Philadelphia 76ers, who are competing with the Nets for the best record in the East, are going to host the Memphis Grizzlies, who are sitting at 23-23, just outside the Western playoff picture. And then at 8 o'clock, the Houston Rockets are going to host the New Orleans Pelicans, as neither of these teams are within the Western Conference playoff picture. But, of course, a win would go a long way for either team. So that's what's going on in the NBA. Shifting really quickly to what's going on with college basketball. Yesterday were both Final Four matchups in the men's bracket for March Madness. And in this matchup, it would be the first seed Baylor from the South region was able to face off against 2 seed Houston from the Midwest region. Going into this matchup, 1 seed Baylor was able to beat Houston 78-59. They went on to outscore Houston by 25 points in the first half. Their leading scorer, their top performer, will be their guard Jared Butler, as he finished with 17 points and 5 rebounds. And with this win, 1 seed Baylor and the champs of the South region will go on to face off. They went on to face off against one seed Gonzaga, who won the West region after they beat UCLA, who won the East region. They were 11 seed out of the East region they had to play in. But after this game went all the way into overtime, it would be a buzzer-beating shot from Jalen Suggs from just inside half court in overtime to send Gonzaga to the national championship game. Alongside him, their forward Drew Timme would finish with 25 points as well. And in his final act for UCLA, Johnny Juzang would finish with 29 points on the night. With this win, of course, Gonzaga will face off against Baylor on tomorrow night in the men's national championship. It'll be at 9:20 p.m. on CBS in Lucas Oil Stadium. So that's currently what the men's bracket's looking like. Looking at what's going on in the women's bracket, looking into what's going on today, it will be the women's national championship between Stanford, who was the number 1 seed from the Alamo region. They'll face off against Arizona, the number 3 seed from the Mercado region, in what's going to be a Pac-12 women's national championship game. This will be played at 6 o'clock on ESPN, as of course the best thing about championships is that of course only one narrative can win out. And once a champion is settled, I will make a profile for them tomorrow. But that's currently what college basketball is looking like right now. Shifting the context to the ice, staying within the arena, checking out what's going on in the NHL. And of course, it's important to note that within the NHL, every team has to play within their own division to limit traveling just to limit the spread of COVID. Starting off in the Eastern Division, the Boston Bruins hosted the Pittsburgh Penguins and were able to pull off a 7-5 win at home after scoring 5 goals in the second period. Picking up their 19th win of the season, the Boston Bruins now sit 4th in the East Division as they trail the Capitals and the Islanders by 9 points in the table, even though they've played 3 less games than the Capitals and 4 less games than the Islanders is where the Bruins sit. Jumping out to Buffalo, the Buffalo Sabres hosted the New York Rangers and were able to pull off a 3-2 win in the shootout. Their left winger Panarin would finish with the Rangers left winger Panarin would finish with the only 2 goals of the night for them, as they would come up just short. With their 8th win of the season, the Buffalo Sabres are still sitting at the bottom of the East Division as they trail the Capitals and Islanders by 30 points in the East Division. Jumping out to New York, the Islanders hosted the Philadelphia Flyers and were able to pull off a 3-2 shootout win. And behind their left winger Bouvier, they finished with 2 goals and picking up their 24th win of the season. The New York Islanders are now tied with the Capitals for the top record in the East Division as they sit 2 points ahead of the third place Pittsburgh Penguins. And then jumping to see what's going on north of the border, the Montreal Canadiens hosted the Ottawa Senators, and after scoring 2 goals in every single period, the Ottawa Senators would beat the Montreal Canadiens 6-3. The right winger Dadonov and the other right winger Anderson would each have 2 goals on the night. And with their 13th win of the season, the Ottawa Senators are now sitting at the bottom of the North Division as they trail the top seed Maple Leafs by 21 points in the table. Jumping out to see what's going on in the Central Division, the Tampa Bay Lightning hosted the Detroit Red Wings, and after scoring 2 goals in the first period, those are the only 2 goals they score all game, and they would pick up their 26th win of the season, beating the Red Wings 2-1. And with this win, the Lightning now are tied with the Florida Panthers, sitting at the top of the Central Division, 3 points ahead of the Carolina Hurricanes. Speaking of the Florida Panthers, the Panthers hosted the Blue Jackets and were able to pick up a 5-2 win. Their center Wenberg would finish with a hat trick of his own with their 25th win of the season. Like I said, they're tied with the Lightning, sitting 3 points ahead of the Carolina Hurricanes. Speaking of the Hurricanes hosted the Dallas Stars, and the Dallas Stars were able to pull off a 3-2 win after scoring a goal in every single period. With their 13th win of the season, the Dallas Stars are now sitting 6th in the Central Division as they trail the Lightning and the Panthers by 18 points in the table. Jumping out to Nashville, the Predators hosted the Chicago Blackhawks as they were able to blank the Blackhawks 3-0 as they scored a goal in every single period. With their 20th win of the season, the Nashville Predators are sitting 4th in the Central Division as they trail the Lightning and Panthers by 13 points in the table. Jumping out to see what's going on out west, The Colorado Avalanche hosted the St. Louis Blues in Denver and were able to pull off a 2-1 win, scoring their game-winning goal in the third period to pick up their 25th win of the season. With this win, they sit on top of the West Division by 4 points over the Golden Knights, as they are currently on a 4-game winning streak. Speaking of the Golden Knights lost their third straight as the Wild were able to score 2 goals in the third period. It just pushed them by to get their 23rd win of the season. The Wild are now sitting third in the West as they trail the Avalanche by 6 points as they played one less game than the Avalanche in the table. And then jumping out to Los Angeles, the Kings hosted the San Jose Sharks, and the San Jose Sharks were able to pull off a 3-2 win, picking up their 17th win of the season, led by their left winger Evander Kane, who had a goal and an assist. With this win, the San Jose Sharks are now sitting with the 6th best record in the West Division, tied for the 5th, I guess, as they now trail the Avalanche by 16 points in the table, just to give a sense of where they are. Look, that's everything that's going on with hockey from yesterday. Looking out to see what's going on today, starting with the primetime matchups. At 12 o'clock, the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are currently sitting at the top of the Central Division, tied with the Panthers, they're going to host the Detroit Red Wings on NBC at noon. At 5 o'clock, the Florida Panthers are going to host the Columbus Blue Jackets on ESPN+. The Panthers are tied with the Lightning for the best record in the Central. On NBC Sports Network, the Carolina Hurricanes are going to host the Dallas Stars at 7 o'clock. Carolina Hurricanes are sitting third in the table by 3 points, so a win could be very important for them. At 9 o'clock, the Calgary Flames are going to host the Toronto Maple Leafs on ESPN+, as the Maple Leafs sit on top of the North Division. And then outside of the primetime games, at 3 o'clock, the New Jersey Devils are going to host the Washington Capitals, who are sitting at the very top of the East Division alongside the Islanders. And then at 9 o'clock, the Anaheim Ducks are going to host the Arizona Coyotes, as the Coyotes sit 4th in the West Division, to give a sense of where they are. That's everything that's going on with hockey. I'm going to shift the focus to baseball very quickly to show you what's going on around the league. Starting off in Yankee Stadium, the Yankees hosted the Blue Jays and were able to pull off a 5-3 win at home after scoring all 5 of their runs in the first 6 innings. For the New York Yankees, their starter would be Corey Kluber, their elite starting pitcher. He would allow only 1 earned run in the 4 innings that he's pitched, as he would strike out 5 batters on the day. The win would go to Loaisiga. Sorry if I butchered the name. And looking at how the Yankees did in their lineup, their elite second baseman DJ LeMay, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their catcher Gary Sanchez would hit his second home run of the season in the 4th inning, as he would finish 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their elite right fielder Aaron Judge would go 2 for 5, and their elite designated hitter Giancarlo Stanton would go 0 for 3 as he walked twice. Their elite shortstop Gleyber Torres would also go 1 for 4 as he walked once and he struck out once as well. For the Toronto Blue Jays in this matchup, the loss would go to Ross Stripling. He allowed 3 earned runs in the 3 innings that he pitched, as he struck out 5. For the batters for the Blue Jays in the lineup, their second baseman Marcus Semien would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run, as he had his first home run of the season. And then their elite first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would go 1 for 3 on the day. With this win, the New York Yankees are now 1-1. They now hold the 3rd best record in the AL East, as they trail the Baltimore Orioles by a game in the division with this win. With this loss, the Blue Jays are also 1-1, and they also trail the Baltimore Orioles by a game in the AL East. Speaking of the Orioles went to Boston. They went to Boston, were able to beat the Red Sox 4-2. Looking at how the Red Sox fared in this matchup, the loss went to their starting pitcher Houck, as he allowed 2 earned runs in 5 innings pitched, as he struck out 8 batters. And then looking at how they fared, their designated hitter JD Martinez would go 3 for 4 with an RBI and a run, as he hit his second double of the season. And that's pretty much and then their second baseman, Marwin Gonzalez, would end up going 2 for 2 as he finished with an RBI in the day. For the Baltimore Orioles, their center fielder, Cedric Mullins, would go 2 for 4 on the day. Their third baseman, Michael Franco, their newest acquisition from the Phillies, would finish 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs, as he would have a big hit on the day. With this win, the Baltimore Orioles are now 2-0, sitting on top of the American League East, half a game ahead of the second-place Rays. And with this loss, the Boston Red Sox now sit at the bottom of the AL East, 2 games behind the first-place Baltimore Orioles. just to give a sense of where they sit. Jumping out to the Rays, the last team in the AL East. They went to face off against the Miami Marlins in Miami, and in this matchup, the Marlins would pick up a 12-7 win as they scored 6 of their runs in the 7th and 8th inning. For the Tampa Bay Rays in this matchup, the start went to Hill. Hill would allow 4 earned runs in 4 innings pitches. He struck out 4 batters. And looking out to how their batters fared, their left fielder Manuel Margot would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their catcher Mike Zunino would hit his first home run of the season as he would finish 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run on the day. Looking out to how the Marlins fared, the start went to Hernandez, and he would only pitch 2 innings of the game. Out of their hitters in this lineup, their center fielder Starling Marte would go 4 for 5 with an RBI and 3 runs. Their first baseman Aguilar would go 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. Cooper, their right fielder, would finish 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs and a run as he hit his first home run of the season. And then their newest outfielder, Adam Duvall, would finish with he would hit a pinch hit home run as he hit 1 for 1 with an RBI and a run. With this win, the Miami Marlins are now 1-2, holding the second worst record in the National League. And with this win, the Tampa Bay Rays are now 2-1 as they trail the first place Baltimore Orioles by half a game in the AL East. Jumping out to Detroit, the Detroit Tigers hosted the Cleveland Indians, and in this matchup, the Detroit Tigers would win this one 5-2 as Julio Teheran, their newest starting pitcher, would pick up his first win. For the Indians in this matchup, Plesac would pick up the loss. He allowed 2 earned runs in the 6 innings that he pitched as he struck out 4. Their elite third baseman Jose Ramirez would go 1 for 4 on the day. Their left fielder Eddie Rosario would go 1 for 1 as he would finish with 2 RBIs and a run on the day. He hit his first home run of the season as he walked twice. For Detroit, Julio Teheran would allow 1 earned run in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters on the day. No one on the Tigers would hit a home run, but their third baseman Jaime Candelario would go 3 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. And then their right fielder, Nomar Masada, will go 3 for 4 with an RBI for the day. With this win, the Detroit Tigers are now 2-0. That is the best record in the AL Central alongside the Kansas City Royals. And with this loss, the Cleveland Indians are now 0-2 as they sit at the bottom of the AL Central, 2 games behind the Tigers and the Royals. Jumping out to Kansas City, the Royals, like I said, were the other team that is now sitting at 2-0 after they beat the Texas Rangers 11-4. They would score 10 runs in the 5th and 6th inning combined to pick up this win. For the Texas Rangers in this matchup, their starting pitcher was Arihara, who would allow 3 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he only struck out 1 batter. Their right fielder, Joey Gallo, would go 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his first home run of the season. For the Kansas City Royals in this matchup, the start went to Mike Minor, who picked up his first win of the season. He would allow 4 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters. Their center fielder Michael Taylor would hit his second home run of the season as he would finish 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. Whit Merrifield, their elite second baseman, will go 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his second home run of the season as well. With this win, the Kansas City Royals are now 2-0. They are tied with the Detroit Tigers for the best record in the AL Central. And with this loss, the Texas Rangers are now 0-2. That is the second worst record in the AL West as they trail the Houston Astros by 2.5 games. Jumping out to Chicago, the Chicago Cubs hosted the Pittsburgh Pirates and were able to pull up a 5-1 win, giving Jake Arrieta his first win of the season. For the Pirates in this matchup, Anderson would pick up the loss as he allowed 3 earned runs in 5 innings pitched. He struck out 7 batters. And the only RBI of the day for the Pirates would go to their shortstop, Kevin Newman, who would finish 1 for 4 on the day with an RBI. For the Cubs in this matchup, their elite third baseman Chris Bryant will go 1 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs as he hit his first home run of the season. Their right fielder Jason Hayward will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as well as he hit his first home run of the season. Their elite shortstop Javier Baez will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as well. And then Jake Arrieta would pick up the win as he allowed 1 earned run in his 6 innings pitch as he struck out 5 batters. With this win, the Chicago Cubs are now 1-1, and so are the Pittsburgh Pirates. With this win, every team in the NL Central is sitting at 1-1, so they're all sitting in first and last place in the division. Jumping out to Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Phillies, Atlanta Braves, that's the only NL East matchup that's playing right now, as the other matchup between the Mets and the Nationals got postponed due to COVID. But nonetheless, in this matchup, the Philadelphia Phillies would win this game 4-0 as they picked up 3 runs in the 5th and 1 in the 6th. Zach Wheeler would pick up his first win of the season as he was the best pitcher of the day yesterday. For the Atlanta Braves, the loss would go to Charlie Morton in his first start, or in his return to Atlanta. He would allow 3 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 5 batters. In the lineup, their elite right fielder Ronald Acuna Jr. would go 0 for 4 as he struck out twice. Their elite second baseman Ozzie Albies would go 0 for 3. Their elite first baseman and reigning National League MVP Freddie Freeman would go 0 for 3 as he struck out. Their elite left fielder Marcell Ozuna would go 0 for 3 as he struck out 3 times. And looking out to how Philly fared, their starting pitcher, Zach Wheeler, would allow no earned runs. He would allow only 1 hit in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 10 batters over the day. Their elite right fielder, Bryce Harper, would go 1 for 3 on the day. Their pitcher, Zach Wheeler, would actually go 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run as he was actually their best hitter and their best performer for the day. With this win, the Philadelphia Phillies are now 2-0, sitting on top of the National League East. And with this loss, the Atlanta Braves are now 0-2, sitting at the bottom of the NL East, trailing the Phillies by 2 games currently in the division. Jumping out to Oakland, the Oakland Athletics hosted their division rivals, the Houston Astros. And in this matchup, the Astros would beat the Athletics 9-1. As after the first inning, the score actually was tied at 1, and then the Astros would they scored 1 in the 2nd, they put up 3 in the 5th, and 4 in the 9th to pick up their 9 runs. For the Oakland A's, the start went to Irvin. He wouldn't even pitch 5 innings. Their elite third baseman, Matt Chapman, would go 0 for 2 as he walked twice and he also struck out twice. The only RBI would go to their designated hitter, Mitch Moreland, who finished 1 for 3 with an RBI. For the Houston Astros, the win went to Lance McCullers Jr., who allowed only 1 earned run and allowed 2 hits in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 7 batters. Their elite second baseman, Jose Altuve, would finish 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run for the day. Their third baseman, Aldemis Diaz, would go 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their second baseman, Carlos Correa, would go 2 for 5. Their designated hitter, Yordan Alvarez, would go 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs and 2 home runs as he hit his first home run of the season in the 5th inning. With this win, the Houston Astros are now 3-0 as they are currently leading the American League West by 1 game. They sit 1 game ahead of the Seattle Mariners and the Los Angeles Angels at the moment. And with this loss, the Oakland Athletics are now 0-3. That is the worst record in the AL West as they trail the Houston Astros by 3 games in the division. Jumping out to Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Reds hosted the St. Louis Cardinals, and they were able to pull off a 9-6 win after scoring 8 runs in the 3rd and 4th inning alone. For the St. Louis Cardinals in this matchup, the loss went to Adam Wainwright as he wouldn't even make it through 3 innings. He allowed 6 earned runs. Their elite first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt, would go 1 for 4 with a run. Their elite third baseman, Nolan Arenado, would go 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as Nolan Arenado hit his first home run of the season. Their shortstop, Paul DeJong, would go 2 for 3 as he had 2 RBIs and 3 runs. He hit his first 2 home runs of the season yesterday. And then for the Cincinnati Reds in this matchup, the win would go to Maile. Maile would allowed 2 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 9 batters over the day. And then their future Hall of Famer, Joey Votto, would go 1 for 5 with an RBI. Their elite shortstop, Eugenio Suarez, would go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Aquino their young outfielder Aquino would pinch hit and finish 1-for-2 with an RBI and a run, as he hit his first home run of the season as well. With this win, the Cincinnati Reds are now 1-1, and with this loss, the Cardinals are now 1-1, just like every team in the National League Central, like I just said. Jumping out to Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Brewers hosted the Minnesota Twins, and in this matchup, the Twins would outpitch the Brewers and win this one 2-0. And what was in a matchup where both teams combined for 5 hits, for the Milwaukee Brewers in this matchup, the start went to their starting pitcher, Corbin Burns. In this matchup, he would pitch 6.1 innings, and he would allow only 1 hit, and the only hit he gave up was a home run, which is the only reason he was taken out. In the 6.1 innings he pitched, he struck out 11 batters. And for Milwaukee, the only hit of the game went to their catcher, Narvaez. He went 1-for-3, as their elite left fielder, Christian Yelich, would go 0-for-4 with 3 strikeouts as well. For Minnesota, the start went to their starting pitcher, Jose Berrios, who would allow no hits in 6 innings pitched, as he struck out 12 batters in those 6 innings that he's pitched. They would combine to only allow the Minnesota Twins would combine to only allow 1 hit all game. And for the batters in this game, their center fielder, Byron Buxton, would go 1-for-4 with an RBI and a run, as he hit his second home run of the season. With this win, the Minnesota Twins are now 1-1. Looking at how they are in the American League Central, they are sitting third. They have the third best record in the AL Central, as they trail the Tigers and the Royals by a game. And then with this loss, the Milwaukee Brewers are now 1-1, just like every team in the National League Central at the moment. Jumping out to Denver, the Colorado Rockies hosted the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers, and in this matchup, the Dodgers would go into the 6th inning trailing 2-0, and then they would score 6 runs in the next 3 innings and win this game 6-5. For the Colorado Rockies in this matchup, Gray got the start. He would allow 1 earned run in 5 innings pitched, as he struck out 7 batters. And then for the Colorado Rockies in this matchup, their elite right fielder, Charlie Blackmon, would go 1-for-3 on the day. Their only player with 2 RBIs was their third baseman, Josh Fuentes, who went 1-for-4 with 2 RBIs and a run. He hit his first home run of the season. Tapia hit his first home run of the season as well. For the Los Angeles Dodgers, the start went to their elite starting pitcher, Walker Buehler, who allowed 2 earned runs in the 6 innings that he's pitched. And then he struck out 4 batters. The win went to Blake Treinen, actually, the former Oakland A's closer. In their lineup, their elite shortstop, Corey Seager, would go 3-for-4 with an RBI and a run. Zach McKinstry would hit a walk, or he would hit an inside the park home run as a pinch hitter for Walker Buehler, as he went 1-for-2 with an RBI and a run. Their elite center fielder, Cody Bellinger, would go 0-for-4 as he struck out twice. And with this win, the Los Angeles Dodgers are now 2-1. They are sitting second in the National League West, as they trail the San Diego Padres by a game in the division. And with this loss, the Colorado Rockies are now 1-2. That is, they are tied for the third best record in the NL West with the San Francisco Giants, as they trail the Padres by 2 games in the West. Speaking of the Padres hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks and were able to blank them 7-0. For the Padres in this matchup, or for the Diamondbacks in this matchup, their center fielder Ketel Marte had 2 hits, and the loss went to their pitcher, Caleb Smith, who only pitched 3 innings. For the San Diego Padres, the win went to their starting pitcher, Joe Musgrove, and in this game, Musgrove would allow only 3 hits and no earned runs in 6 innings pitched, as he struck out 8 batters. Their elite shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., would go 0-for-4 as he walked once and still scored twice. Their elite third baseman, Manny Machado, would go 3-for-4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his first home run of the season. Their right fielder, Will Myers, would go 2-for-4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs on the day. And with this win, the San Diego Padres are now 3-0, sitting at the top of the National League West. With this loss, the Arizona Diamondbacks are now 0-3. They now sit at the bottom of the NL West. Jumping out to Anaheim, the Los Angeles Angels hosted the Chicago White Sox. And up until the 8th inning, the White Sox were leading this game 3-2. And the Angels would score 3 runs in the 8th inning. They would score 1 run off of a Jared Walsh triple, and then it would be a go-ahead home run by Justin Upton to give the Angels the lead to run away with their second win of the season. For the White Sox, the start went to Lance Lynn as he allowed 2 runs, 0 of them earned in his 4.2 innings pitched, as he went on to strike out 6 batters. Their elite shortstop, Tim Anderson, would go 1 for 5. Their elite first baseman and reigning AL MVP, Jose Abreu, would go 0 for 4 as he walked once and he also struck out. Their designated hitter, Yermin Mercedes, would go 3 for 4 as his streak to start the season would end at 8 at-bats. He would finish with a hit in his first 8 at-bats in the major leagues. Probably one of the more impressive feats that you've ever seen, as he finished with 2 RBIs and a run. He had his first home run of the season yesterday. And then their center fielder, Luis Robert, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI, as one of the balls actually boinked off his head, which was kind of a blooper back when it happened. And then for the Angels in this matchup, their start went to their starting pitcher, Alex Cobb. Alex Cobb would not get the decision as Guerra got the decision, but Cobb would allow 3 earned runs in the 6 innings that he pitched as he struck out 7 batters. Their designated hitter, Shohei Ohtani, would go 1 for 4 as he struck out twice. Their goated center fielder, Mike Trout, would go 0 for 3 as he would get walked once as he struck out 3 times. Their elite third baseman, Anthony Rendon, would go 1 for 3 as he walked once. Their left fielder, Justin Upton, would go 1 for 4 as he finished with 2 RBIs and a run. He had the game-winning home run. Their first baseman, Walsh, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as well. With this win, the Los Angeles Angels are now 2-1. Looking at the American League West, they are tied with the Seattle Mariners for the second best record in the West as they trail the Houston Astros by a game. And with this loss, the Chicago White Sox are now 1-2. That is the 4th best record in the American League Central, as they now trail the Detroit Tigers and the Kansas City Royals by 1.5 games. Last but not least, jumping out to Seattle, the Mariners hosted the San Francisco Giants, and in this matchup, the Mariners would blank the Giants, winning this game 4-0 to pick up their second win of the season. For the Giants, the start went to their starting pitcher, Logan Webb. Logan Webb would only pitch 5 innings as he allowed 3 earned runs in those 5 innings. He struck out 5 batters still. And then in their starting lineup, their second baseman, Donovan Solano, would be the only player that had at least 1 hit. He finished 2 for 4. On the day for Seattle, their starting pitcher was Chris Flexen. Chris Flexen would allow no earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he picked up his first win, straight Flexen. He would strike out 6 batters in those 5 innings. Their designated hitter, Mitch Haniger, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their third baseman, Kyle Seager, would go 2 for 4. And with this win, the Seattle Mariners are now 2-1, and that is, they are tied with the Los Angeles Angels for the second best record in the American League West, as they now trail the Houston Astros by a game in the division. With this loss, the San Francisco Giants are now 1-2. They are now tied with the Colorado Rockies for the third best record in the National League West, as they now trail the San Diego Padres by 2 games in the division. So that's currently what the MLB is looking like following yesterday's games. Looking forward to what's going on today, starting at 1:05. The Philadelphia Phillies are hosting the Atlanta Braves and looking to pull off the sweep, as the Atlanta Braves are looking to start their Rookie of the Year candidate, Ian Anderson. At 1:05, the New York Yankees are looking to host the Toronto Blue Jays on ESPN+. At 1:10, the Boston Red Sox are going to host the Baltimore Orioles at 1:10. At the same time, the Detroit Tigers are going to host the Cleveland Indians, as the Tigers look to sweep the Indians. The Orioles are looking to sweep the Red Sox as well. At 1:10, the 1-1 Reds are going to face off against the 1-1 St. Louis Cardinals, as Carlos Martinez makes the start for St. Louis. At 2:10, the Milwaukee Brewers are going to host the Minnesota Twins, as both teams are 1-1. Both teams are going to win their series. At the same time, the Kansas City Royals are going to host the Texas Rangers, as Brady Singer looks to help Kansas City pull off the sweep today. At 2:20, the 1-1 Chicago Cubs are going to host the 1-1 Pittsburgh Pirates, as both teams look to win this series. At 3:10, the Colorado Rockies are going to host the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers as Julio Urias looks to make his first start for the Los Angeles Dodgers. At 4:07, the Oakland Athletics are going to host the 3-0 Houston Astros as Sean Manaea looks to get his first start of the season. At 4:10, the San Diego Padres, led by Chris Paddock, are going to host the 0-3 Arizona Diamondbacks as the Padres look to get their first sweep of the season. At 8:37, it'll be an ESPN matchup between the 2-1 Angels and the 1-2 Chicago White Sox as Shohei Ohtani looks to get his first start as pitcher versus the Chicago White Sox in this matchup. So that's currently everything that's going on with baseball today. And last but not least, I'm going to leave the continent just to give a sense of what's going on in the world of soccer right now. Starting off with the Premier League, starting with Chelsea. Chelsea hosted West Bromwich, and after Thiago Silva picked up a red card in the 29th minute, after Chelsea was up 1-0, West Brom would end up scoring 5 goals on them, and Chelsea would only score one more. West Brom would beat Chelsea 5-2 yesterday. With this loss, Chelsea is now sitting 4th in the Premier League as they now sit 5 points below 5th place Leicester City, and they now sit 2 games ahead of Liverpool. Liverpool now moved into 5th place after pulling off their 3-0 win against Arsenal. Diogo Jota, their Portuguese forward, would finish with 2 goals in the second period, and in between those 2 goals, they had a 68th minute from their elite Egyptian forward Mohamed Salah. With this win, like I said, Liverpool now sits 5th in the Premier League as they have now jumped back into Europa League competition. They now have the same amount of points as West Ham United, who and West Ham have played 1 less game, and Tottenham can still mathematically jump them today with what's going on. But as of right now, Liverpool is temporarily in 5th, and they put the pressure on West Ham and Tottenham to win their games. Jumping out to Leicester, Leicester City hosted Manchester City, and in this matchup, Manchester City beat Leicester City 2-0. And with this win, Manchester City still sits on the top of the Premier League. They're up by 17 points after their 2-0 win. With this loss, Leicester City still sits in 3rd in Premier League. They had a chance to jump over Manchester United temporarily for 2nd place. But with this loss, the pressure is now on Manchester City to create more space between them and Leicester City at the moment. But that's where that's what's going on right now in the Premier League. Jumping out to the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich, who's currently sitting at the top, faced off against RB Leipzig, the team that's sitting 2nd in the Bundesliga. And after their only goal was scored in the 38th minute from their German midfielders Leon Goretzka. And after that goal, Bayern Munich still sits on top of the Bundesliga now by 7 points over 2nd place RB Leipzig, putting enough space between them in 2nd place to put them in better position to win the title with 4 more games left, or with 7 more games left in the title, or left in the season. Jumping out to Dortmund, Dortmund hosted Eintracht Frankfurt, and Eintracht Frankfurt was able to pick up a 2-1 goal. Their 87th and the game-winning goal come in the 87th minute from their leading goal scorer Andre Silva. With this win, Eintracht Frankfurt now sits 4th in the Bundesliga. They sit 7 points ahead of Borussia Dortmund, who sit in 5th place out of Champions League contention with 7 games left. It looks more and more as though Dortmund may not qualify for Champions League. Jumping out to Italy to see what's going on there. AC Milan hosted Sampdoria, and after they were trailing for most of the second half, they would pick up a goal in the 87th minute to actually tie the game up. With this draw, AC Milan still sits 2nd in Serie A as they now trail Inter Milan by 8 points in the table, just to give a sense of where they sit. And Juventus would end up drawing with Torino 2-2 as their 79th minute goal will come from their goated Portuguese forward Cristiano Ronaldo. With this draw, Juventus now sits 4th in Serie A. They sit 2 points behind Atalanta for 3rd, as Atalanta has played 1 more game than them, so Juventus mathematically can overtake them. They sit 4 points behind 2nd place AC Milan with 1 less game played too, and they now sit 12 points behind Inter. It looks as though it looks more and more as though they're not going to win Serie A, but they can most definitely move up the table in the next few games. But this draw definitely stopped their chances from at least jumping up. And speaking of the team at the very top, Inter Milan faced off against Bologna and pulled off a 1-0 win after their 31st minute goal from their elite Belgian striker Romelu Lukaku. With this win, Inter Milan is now sitting on top of Serie A. They now sit 8 points ahead of second place AC Milan, and that's currently where they're sitting. Looking at what's going on in La Liga, Real Madrid hosted Eibar and were able to pull off a 2-0 win. Their second goal will come from their elite French striker Karim Benzema in the 73rd minute. And with this win, looking out to where Real Madrid's doing in La Liga, they are temporarily sitting in second place. They sit with one more game played than Atletico and Barcelona. They now sit 3 points below Atletico, and they now sit 1 point ahead of Barca, putting the pressure on Barca. If Barca draws or wins their next game, they jump right back into second, but with a loss, they do not. And Atletico still sits about 3 games. They'll still sit 3 points ahead of Real Madrid even if they lose. So that's what La Liga is looking like. And then jumping into Liga, looking at the 4 top teams and how they fared. First off, out of the 2 top teams in Liga, PSG would host Lille, and Lille would pull off the 1-0 win, the 20th minute after the 20th minute goal from Jonathan David. Neymar, their elite Brazilian forward, would actually pick up a red card in his first game back, and with this win, now Lille sits in the number 1 spot in Liga, 3 points ahead of PSG, as of course that season's winding down to a close, and of course Lille will take all the points that they can get. Sitting in third place right now in Liga is AS Monaco after they pulled off a 4-1 win versus Metz. And with this win, they now sit 1 point below PSG and 4 points below Lille. And now sitting in fourth is Olympique Lyonnais after they picked up a draw versus Lens. Their goal will come in the 85th minute from Paqueta to actually tie up the game. With this draw, they now sit 1 point behind AS Monaco, 2 points behind PSG, and they now sit 5 points behind Lille, and that's what Ligue 1 is currently looking like right now. Looking forward to what's going on today as we're entering this Sunday full of soccer. Starting at 9 o'clock, we're going to see Newcastle United host Tottenham Hotspur. Looking at where Tottenham Hotspur is sitting in the Premier League, they're sitting in the 7th place spot. A win here could temporarily place Tottenham into Europa League contention, as it would put them over Liverpool mathematically. So a win here would be very important for them. And then at 2:30, Manchester United is going to host Brighton and Hove Albion, as Manchester United sits second in the Premier League. They sit 17 points behind Manchester City. It looks as though they're more than likely not going to win. But now that Leicester City lost to Manchester City, it gives Manchester United a better chance to finish at least as Premier League runners-up for the time being. Jumping out to La Liga, Sevilla is actually going to host Atletico Madrid, as of course Atletico Madrid still sits at the very top of La Liga by 3 points. Sevilla sits 4th in the table, as Sevilla now sits 11 points below Atletico Madrid, so they're a very viable candidate to halt Atletico Madrid's progress towards the number 1 seed. And that's basically everything that's going on today, Sunday, April 4th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I want to thank everyone for listening, 12:56 minutes, and I will catch everyone tomorrow once all of today's exhibitions are done. And tomorrow will be Monday, April 5th, 2021. Thanks once again for listening to all 57 minutes of my piece. I hope all is well, and I will catch you tomorrow. Peace out.